Here's the thing. Don't get drawn into the wrong argument. The wrong argument is to go into, is this a race issue? Is this the race card? This is a divisive president. This is a guy who's going to play the immigration issue with Villagrosa as chair of the DNC convention. That's for Hispanics. He's going to play one for the black vote. He's going to play another for whatever vote, for the senior vote. He's going to rescue grandma from going over the cliff. Here's the real argument in this. Congregation captains. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, federal government broke up the Jewish bloc vote in New York City because synagogues or the attendees were being told by the rabbis how to vote. So you've got to look at what he intends to do. He intends to keep the black community where he is, and the black community has made one serious mistake over the years. They've been so dumbed down politically that they've become predictable voters. 90 to 97% voting Democrat, never considering that there's another option. So all he's doing is playing to them, playing to their so-called fear, which isn't real, doesn't exist, and playing into keeping them where they need them as a block to vote. Don't get caught in a race card argument. It's false.
So I can open up this conversation to the whole table, and yes, white people get to talk about race too. Why is it that it seems that when African-American and white race politics get involved, it is such a hot-button issue that folks say, now if Rick Santorum, he organized a group, White People for Rick Santorum, can you imagine the outrage? What is your response to that?
Oh, you're looking at me?
Sure, yes, as our political maven.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little easier for majorities to, or minorities to gather and unify in their own name than majorities. But I got to agree with David, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting your point, but I actually don't see this as a race issue either. I see this as a liberal political project. I mean, this is what liberals do every election cycle. They divide up the electorate into various demographics. Young people, old people, white people, black people, straight people, gay people, you know, men, women. And they make personalized, customized pitches to each of these demographics. They could contradict one another, these pitches. It doesn't matter. That's what they do. I'm not sure that's going to work entirely this year, because we're all united around one special interest right now, and that's jobs. And I don't think whether you're black, white, old, young, male, female, whatever, is really going to be as useful for Democrats. But I think he's going to make similar pitches to Hispanics and similar pitches to gay Americans and young Americans.
And has already done so to women.
Absolutely.
He's already looked to
right.
Well, Donna Brazile
women.
just wrote about that, talking about women and trying to tie everything to Michelle Obama. But let me expand on that a little. Something that the Republicans do badly, which is as soon as there's an immigration issue, they troll out their Hispanic guy. Hey, Marco Rubio or Susana Martinez. The problem is the wrong argument. You can divide the people in the nation by ethnic groups, and that way you control them. Because if you really want to talk about racism, it's about power and control. The black-white dynamic is limited to what happened between blacks in the African continent, who were sold primarily by blacks, to whites and brought into Americas and the other areas. So that's the most recent dynamic. Racism is about power and control. So the false premise of this argument is that somehow you're divided because you're Hispanic. Republicans need to stop when you're accused of being a racist by saying, no, I'm not. Don't troll out your black guy. Don't troll out David Webb, Charles Payne, Alan West. Don't troll out Marco Rubio or Susana Martinez for Hispanics, and go back to the policies. The liberals have kept communities down. 40% unemployment amongst black teens. Huge, it's in the 20s with black males. 59% of black women, single women, have children out of wedlock. Start looking at that. They keep you down by keeping you separate, giving you your entitlements and controlling your interest.
David, I have a question for you. So let's set aside, despite your wonderful appeal, the policies for a moment. And let's recognize that there have been some groups in our society who have been systematically discriminated against. Your race being one of those that have been, in fact...
Well, my race is human, but I'm just checking in the biological fact here.
Okay, but look,
I get what you're saying.
I think you do get what I'm saying. The point is this. Is it ever appropriate? Actually, the question is this. Is it ever appropriate for a politician to address a group of people who have a common interest, whether or not that might be race or sexual orientation, as a group? Or
religious.
Hold on. As a group. Set aside the policy. Set aside whether or not Democrats have done a poor job. Set aside whether or not their policies have actually held down that particular group which we may be addressing. Just answer this for me. Is it ever appropriate to address that group as a cohesive unit?
Absolutely. It is a valid policy approach, but it's never approached on policy. When you look at the words and you read the story and you look at what's on the African American Barack Obama website, it's about creating an identity within the black community. By the way, barbershops and beauty shop captains, do black people only go to barbershops and beauty shops? Do they only go to historically black colleges and universities? Do they only go to church so you can become a congregation captain? Because I know some blacks who go to white churches of all kinds. My point is this. They separate you and they make your identity. Your point is valid. So come out and say the black community has a higher rate of unemployment, white flight, a lot of other issues, corporate flight from certain neighborhoods. Address the issues honestly as the issues and say this is of concern.
So what we're saying is there's not a problem with the concept of African Americans for Obama. There's not a problem with that concept. It's actually the sales pitch within that concept that you take issue
Yes,
with.
I mean, we can have Mormons for Mitt, we can have
I found a
roosters for Rick, we can have whatever.
Honestly, that leads to the next question, because we can't have white people for Mitt. We can't have white people for Obama. So explain to me where the line is drawn.
Hypocrisy and political correctness. I have no problem. Matter of fact, I'd love to see it just to make a play on this whole ridiculous landscape. Whites for Mitt. Why? Because you can have blacks for Obama. We're not hyphenated. We're Americans, African American, Latino American. That's your identity. That's your cultural identity. But they play into it because we've accepted it. And until we as a people say no, that's not valid anymore. Again, you can uplift any community because it's integrated within the mosaic that is America, but you can keep it down by saying you're separate.
But